Hi, Kat.
Hi, how are you? So glad to be here jamming with you. And to everyone who's watching, I'm Kat Cole, CEO of AG1, and I'm so stoked to be here with Dr. Becky Kennedy, who needs no introduction, but who I'm so thrilled not only to call a friend and someone I look up to on the topics of parenting and leadership and psychology, but also someone who over time I've gotten to know. We have similarities in some of the theories we talk about and the companies that we run on the idea of foundations and leadership. And I'm just so excited to have a chat together. So Dr. Becky, would love for you to introduce yourself for the few people who may not know who you are.
Well, no, thank you. So excited to be here. I am a clinical psychologist turned disruptor in the parenting space. That's what I would say. And I am founder and CEO of Good Inside, and we really consider ourselves the foundation for sturdy leadership in the home. And so when it comes to parenting, I think it's a job that most parents would say it's the hardest job, it's the most important job. I think they would say it's probably the job they're going to care about the most in like the latter years of their life. Someone said it's the job you care about the most on your deathbed. And
Mm.
yet it's also the only job we don't really have foundations for and principles or even daily practices. So we can actually be the type of parents we want to be and even feel equipped as opposed to overwhelmed and confused. And so our mission at Good Inside is to help parents go from a place of, oh, what's wrong with me? I'm messing up my kid. I feel overwhelmed to, wait a second. I actually have the resources I need. I have the support I need actually in my pocket. And now I am treating my job as a parent with the same seriousness and the same excitement and the same confidence I would treat any other job I felt was important in my life.
It's so interesting to think about this idea of learning and education and foundations, and everything you teach and share and that I've learned is about setting foundations and boundaries and practices. And then I run this company AG1 with this amazing product that is about a daily ritual, a boundary for ourselves, building foundational health. So this topic of foundations is a beautiful area of union for us. Why is it so hard? Why is it so difficult for us to learn or build these foundations as parents or even as leaders? Because the principles you teach are directly overlapping between parenting and leading teams. What's so difficult about it?
So many things. I mean, I think one, we're fighting a societal narrative that parenting should come naturally. And I
Mm.
think a lot of us hear that and then we say, yeah, I guess that's not true, but it's really, really deep in our bones. It's been passed on to us generation after generation. Because if you think about the world and where things are at, the world is a collection of people. People are, highly impacted by how they were raised. It almost seems if you zoom out, wait, we should give a lot of attention and a lot of support and a lot of resources then to how people are raised if we want to create a better world. But we're not. I mean, at all. We just have a baby, we leave the hospital, maybe we learn CPR, which no shade to CPR, so important, but we're not told, how do I help my kid learn to manage emotions? How do I help my kid ask for what they want? How do I help my kid manage the disappointment when they don't get what they want? And the reason I bring up even those examples is you and I, Kat, know when you get to be an adult, none of those things magically get easier. You don't learn how to regulate emotions as a birthday gift when you turn 10. You don't learn how to ask what you want in some high school class. You definitely don't learn how to manage disappointment with grace and respect to other people. When something drops from the sky, these things don't happen with age. They happen with what we do as we age, and they really happen in the context of your family. And I think what I've heard over and over from parents, and this is so interesting, and as you know, we've launched this app. A parent said something to me very compelling. She said, I realize what took me so long in joining. She said, I've joined 3 days in. I can't believe I didn't join a year ago. It really felt like if I was joining, I was saying I was a failure. It really, which is interesting. We don't say that to ourselves in so many other places, right? When a doctor goes to medical school, they're not like, all right, I guess I got to go to medical school. I'm a failure. We'd be like, that's amazing. You took a step to becoming an amazing doctor, right? But if parenting has been told to us as something that comes naturally, then all of a sudden we have a whole area of our life where getting support and resources is then a marker of failure and shame, because then we must not have what we need naturally to do this well. And so I think big picture at Good Inside, what we want to put out there is parenting doesn't come naturally. I mean, what comes naturally is what your parents did to you, but a lot of us want to do something different. And I like to say, maternal instinct like this. There's no maternal instinct. We've been told that also. And I don't mean that with any shade again to women. Like, that's amazing. Of course, you have instincts, but the idea of maternal instinct is actually counter to growth and learning, which is actually a really pernicious narrative. And I think those forces have really gotten in our way of leaning in and getting the type of help and support we'd get in any other area of our life.
I love this idea of taking pride in taking a step to get help, whatever help may mean. And this idea of, similarly, we can get our nutrition from whole food and exercise and sunlight and all of these things. But taking a step toward supporting my foundational nutrition with AG1, or it might be other supplements or extra exercise that I might not get in a day, or a routine that may help me sleep more effectively. That doesn't mean I'm unhealthy, because all these things can't be done naturally. It means I'm taking a step in that direction. And similarly, when I started following you, Good Inside, and when I downloaded the app and put in the information on both of my kids, but I'm focused on my deeply feeling kid, Ocean, the older one, just this one, there's a feeling of normalization of the challenges, that the fact that the content is there, the ingredients are there to help me with my very common needs is empowering. And then taking the steps and getting the daily reminders. I have the daily reminder of what is my kid struggling with, has been, now it's a habit. It helps me frame my mind every day of how I see some of what might be Ocean's beautiful strengths, but that were a little challenging for me as he got older. So I'd love to hear more about what you see in your clients or the people who participate in Good Inside as they start adopting these routines and boundaries. What's some of the feedback you get or the growth that you see in parents?
Yeah, honestly, I wonder if it's similar to how how I myself even have experienced so much of the benefits of AG1. As you know, I'm an AG1 user, and I think there's actually so much overlap, because when I think about my morning, and it was this morning, right? I made my drink. And what I was saying to myself in that moment is sometimes it only takes a few minutes to engage in an act that gives me a positive step forward.
Mm.
And now all of a sudden, my visual, and I'm a visual person, is there's like all these roads we can get on, right, in life, right? Taking care of ourselves, our kids. And like the first step you take is kind of indicative of what road you started down. Now, you and I know you can start down one road, and thank goodness we have agency. You can say, whoa, I don't want to get to the destination. Let me switch roads. It's also true that it's kind of easier to just start walking down a road. There's more inertia. I can just then keep going down that road. So when I think about my AG1 experience, that is an act of self-care. That is an act of saying I matter. That is an act of saying I take care of myself. That is an act of saying even to my kids, no, I can't make you a waffle right now. Do you see what I'm doing? I matter too. All of that happens in a matter of just a few moments, right? I don't even get to the benefits of the drink, but like separate from that, that really matters. I think about Good Inside in the same way. One of the things I heard for years, and I'm kind of ashamed to say it, is Dr. Becky, I love your approach, your deeply feeling a kid approach, even the sleep approach, whatever it is. We have whatever someone's going through in their family, we have a solution for it. But a parent said to me, and this really makes me think about AG1, I can't sit down for an hour course. Like, and please don't tell me it means I don't care, I don't have willpower. Like, I can't. And I was like, first of all, I believe you. I 100% believe you. I know how busy it is for me. I was hearing from this parent, her life. I believe you. And then I realized unintentionally, I am colluding in the problem that there's only one way and it takes forever to have kind of parental fitness, right? Let's say that. And so that's why we really wanted to innovate around the app, where I said, I never want to lose the specialness and the high quality nature to Good Inside's approach and content. I would never sacrifice that just to give someone a 2-minute approach. But you guys with AG1 give people a very manageable way to take care of themselves and take care of their health, to have that foundation of daily health. And because you've made a step in that foundation, probably the decisions you make the rest of the day are different because you've already started down a certain road. We wanted to do that. And so our app is meant for the parent who has kind of, quote, failed all the other parenting courses they've tried. And I say failed because actually those courses have failed you. My courses have failed you. They weren't built for your life. But as you know, you get this like deck of cards, you swipe through it in an app. It takes 2 minutes and it gives you the feeling of, oh my goodness, an aha moment. That's a new way to look at something with my kid, an actionable strategy. I'm going to do this thing today. And then it gives you relief and hope. And because you have a new way of looking at something, something to do, relief and hope, you are down a totally different path for the rest of your day. And the feedback we've gotten, I wonder if it's similar to yours, is for the first time, I feel like it's possible to be the parent I want to be. Oh my goodness, I didn't realize all it took was a few minutes hiding in my closet or at the pickup line or sometimes sitting on my toilet. I have that time. I have 2 minutes. I'm never going to start a course, but I can do something short and sweet. And then all of a sudden I hear myself saying something to my kid and I go to bed saying, I feel like $1,000,000. I feel like I crushed that day as a parent, just like I'm sure for you. You feel like at AG1 we hear, oh, I crushed that day, all because of this small habit that's manageable and impactful.
I mean, this idea of we can't always predict or necessarily control every step in all the day, but we can control how it starts. And my Good Inside app, so I, for people to see, I also added in the layer of siblings, the topic of sibling arguing. And I've been wondering what's normal, what's healthy, what's productive. I started noticing that, I get really busy. I'm traveling, they'd be arguing. And in my mind, I first think, stop arguing. Why are you fighting? But then I'm like, I'm going to go to the Good Inside app. So I start my day, I drink my AG1, this idea of one habit that helps me build other healthy habits. So I drink my AG1, I'm less likely to smash a donut at 10 a.m. No shade on donuts. I'm just more likely to take extra healthier steps or go on that walk. I read my Good Inside sibling app and, the very beginning, sibling relationships are hard. Kids are always trying to figure out if they're safe and they're going to get their needs met. Even just reading that, it's not that I can't take a course, to your point. It's not that I can't go to a workshop or even go to some deeper learning or self-work. That is possible. That is fantastic. And I could, just as with supplementation, I could cobble together 20 pills and powders and go make a very expensive, difficult to keep up with version of AG1 if I wanted. But I choose in a few places in my life, the simple, high quality, trusted way to start my steps. And so for nutrition, and for our customers, that's AG1. For parenting and even leadership, that's my Good Inside education and app. Just being reminded, kids are just trying to figure out if they're going to get their needs met. I'm already facing my morning, which is one of my few windows with my kids now that they're back in school, with more empathy. And it helps me be a better parent. I feel more calm. I feel more chill. I feel more in control. I feel more in control, even though it's not about control, but this idea of, I understand a bit more of what's happening and why it's happening.
You feel equipped because when we don't feel equipped, we act from a place of desperation. And whether you're leading at home, you're leading in the workplace, acting from desperation, it allows us to like vomit out our frustration in the moment. We just like say something, but after we don't feel good about ourselves. There's just two things I want to layer onto that. One is most generous interpretation. To me, it's what we talk about all the time at Good Inside, and it works so well at the workplace, is if you're like any normal person, when you have an issue, you always come up with the least generous interpretation, the LGI first. My kids are fighting because they're obnoxious, because they're spoiled, because they don't appreciate me as a parent. We just come up with them so fast. It's so easy. Why is my kid hitting? They're a sociopath. And you're like, but they're why do I think that? And it shifts us to a most generous interpretation. Wait, my kids are trying to feel safe. And to some degree, they are competing for my attention and love. And my time is finite. And so they almost express that struggle through a struggle with each other. You have two employees who you see in a meeting, like no matter what one says, the other one always shoots it down. And you're so frustrated. And your least generous interpretation is these people are awful. They don't understand teamwork. Wait, maybe they each feel insecure in their position. Maybe they each think the other person's a threat. Maybe they're jealous of the last time someone got a promotion and they're acting that out. None of that makes it okay. But when you have this MGI perspective, you can say to one of them, hey, you're a good person. I see what keeps going on in these meetings. And truthfully, I know you don't want to have unproductive meetings either. So we're on the same team. Let's just get to the bottom of it. What's going on there? I'm just going to put it out there. Are you worried about something? I feel like maybe you're worried about something. And that I wouldn't hold that against you. I'd actually love to know that so we can work through it. And now you're getting to the core of the issue with siblings at work. And now you're actually leading instead of just reacting.
I love this most generous interpretation. We talk about this quite often at AG1 as a company and as a team, that while yes, the product was initially developed and really connected to athletes, top performers. I mean, it's NSF for Sports certified, Olympians drink it, but so do busy moms like you and I. So do everyday people who are on a life journey. And I'll see in our reviews often a customer saying, look, I'm not perfect. I'm not an athlete. I don't always follow every plan. Every day is not the perfect workout. Sometimes I don't get all my steps in, but I'm starting fresh every morning with my AG1 with that intention. It is a version of most generous interpretation. Like, I'm still worth the next day making a great effort.
I love that. And that actually makes me think about one of what I call a kind of 3 pillars of what I say is foundations of sturdy leadership, which again is as applicable to the workplace. One day we'll have a good inside in the workplace kind of management consulting book. But what I usually end with, but I'm going to start with it because you're talking about it, is what I call repair over perfection, right? Repair is more powerful for people than perfection. And if you think about what that means, you can only repair with someone, which is really like saying sorry. You can only repair if you mess up. And so if you want to get good at repair, you have to mess up. So you have to miss a day of your AG1. You have to yell at your kids if you're going to get good at repair. I always say, and you can use this for your customers too, I always say perfect is creepy. I think perfect is so creepy. That's the only word. It's creepy. It's like robots. Like, we're humans. And so for parenting, you're going to hopefully lean in. Start a parenting habit. It's the same thing. Start a parenting habit still. Of course, there's going to be a day when you miss the habit, or there's going to be a day when you say something you wish you could take back. I'm a founding member of saying not so nice things to my kids club, yelling at my kids club. Kat is right up. You're on the board with me, you know.
That's right.
We have a lot of experience. And what that means is I can then go to my kids and do something that is foundational for their health when they're older. I can say to them, hey, I yelled at you in the kitchen. I'm really sorry. It's never your fault when I yell. I was frustrated, and I'm going to work on better managing my frustration so I can talk to you in a respectful way, even when I'm upset. Now, here's why that matters so much. When my kids become adults and they're seeking out a partner in life or friends, the model of a relationship we create with our kids when they're young is their model they take out into the adult world. It's their, my friend Malik always calls it's their factory settings. So which would you rather have for your kids' factory settings? Would you rather them go into the adult world saying, where is my perfect partner? Who always gets it right. They always are attuned to my feelings. They're always so validating. Oh, right. Or would you rather have someone think, where is that person who, in general, is there, is thoughtful, is caring, and when they're triggered, when they're not at their best, they take responsibility, they don't blame me for their acting out, and they repair and put themselves on the pathway to change. Like, I'm going to say choice 2 any day over choice 1. And it's the same thing with your product, right? I mean, besides taking your AG1, you're going to miss a workout. You're going to forget to have a doctor's appointment. You're going to be late to work. And if you set yourself up for perfection in any area of your life, you make yourself less resilient for any other struggle in any other part of your life. And that's really short-sighted. And so repair over perfection is such a key part of sturdy leadership. We repair with ourselves. We remind ourselves I'm a good person who is having a hard time. Then I can repair with my kid. And it really just lifts the whole moment and becomes this beautiful teaching moment. I always say, we're writing a story with our kids. That's what their childhoods are. Like, we're kind of writing these different chapters. And of course, there's chapters that have moments with yelling or with using a loud voice or saying something we didn't wish we said. Oh, you're so spoiled. And then when we don't say anything because we feel so ashamed, the chapter ends with that moment. That's always my visual. It ends. When you repair, you actually get to go back as like a writer and you say, wait, I'm going to open up to chapter 3, page 50. And then you get to write a new ending. It's almost magical in that way. And so repair is where it's at. So just anyone who's a parent, just, good parents don't get it right all the time. Good parents repair. And it's the same in leadership.
I'd love to stay on this topic of perfection. I mean, we see it on the nutrition side quite a bit because all the ways to help our health or all the ways to become a great parent, it can be daunting, it can be confusing. There are many areas of our lives we can improve. For nutrition, there's gut health that we're learning more and more about is a critical foundation for nutrient absorption, the gut-brain connection, for mental health, and in general to support whole body systems. And so, the supplement industry is big and full of people with products and opinions. And we hear from customers all the time, how do I know what to do? Like, what's the most important? And which is why there's this idea of there's a journey. And if you want to dedicate yourself to deeply nuanced, hyper personalized content education and steps, great, go for that. Where we decide to play in nutrition is this idea of a simple, comprehensive foundation that covers many of the bases that most people need. And then you do your special stuff on top of that. If you have a special gut health need or you have a special vitamin or mineral deficiency, then you go do those things with your physician. But the foundation, the ritual, the one thing that most people can benefit from is getting nutrients and gut health support first thing in the morning, which is AG1, multivitamin, multi-mineral, phytonutrients, pro and prebiotics. So this idea of gut health and nutrients. And then you stack on top of that whatever you might need, if you need. Not everyone needs more, but some do. I think of Good Inside very similarly, that this is my foundation, this idea of connections and progress over perfection and repair. These concepts are my parenting foundation. And then based on my kids' very specific needs or where my husband and I are in our parenting journey, we might go down a deeper rabbit hole if we need to layer that on with a particular era of life. I'd love to hear you. I've heard you talk about this quite a bit, but this idea of, again, foundations and routines and what are some of the basic principles that are in the Good Inside app that people could learn more about. But I don't want to be on a call with you and not highlight. You talk about as some of these almost not for but most people benefit from keeping these things in mind and practicing.
I think I want to answer that question by talking about family jobs because we have a million situations that come up every day. My kid was rude. My kid won't go to bed. My kid is jumping on the couch. I tell them to stop jumping on the couch. They look at me and smile and keep jumping on the couch. And it seems like there's an innumerable number of things that could happen, which is stressful for parents because you're like, do I need to learn an innumerable number of strategies? And I even think we're set up to think this way, when we're pregnant, we're told things in like a week by week stage. And so many parents say to me, what do I need to know at this age? And then what do I do at this age? And I always answer them in a different way. It feels stressful, but you need to learn something new every year. Like that's a lot. How about instead, if we have like a few things that we can think about that we just apply those same things every year? Like I'm all for efficiency. That makes a lot more sense. It's much more first principles and less chaotic. So whenever parents come to my office, and they present a situation, I say, okay, we're going to jump into it. We're going to solve it. We really will. But first, let's start with this. You're talking about wanting to do your job well. As a parent, every parent wants to do their job well. What is your job? What is your job when your kid is tantruming? What is your job when your kid won't get off the couch? What is your job when your kid needs to get out of the house and they won't put on their shoes? What is your job? And every parent looks at me with like wide eyes. They're like, I have no idea. That's why I'm coming to you, But it strikes me that in any other area, like if someone was working at AG1 with you, and you were like, do your job well, and they were like, yeah, Kat, I don't have a job description. I can't imagine you'd blame them because if you don't know what your job is, You cannot do your job well. You are just running around like a chicken with your head cut off. And I think that's what happens. So I want to talk about what a parent's job is. And at Good Inside, we consider that parents have two main jobs. And every time, I mean this, no matter what is happening in your house, coming back to family jobs will help because every time there's a problem, family jobs are out of whack. We usually aren't doing our job, or we're doing our kids' job and we're relegating our job to our kids. So that's called role confusion. Okay. There's two main jobs a parent has, just two. We can all remember two things. Number one, keep our kids safe by setting boundaries. And number two, keep our kids safe and build our kids' confidence through validating their feelings. Simply, boundaries, validation. If you remember only two words, that's your job. And these jobs work together. They seem like they don't work together because we've been really presented so many ideas of parenting where we're seemingly doing one extreme or the other. A kid is jumping on the couch and they're jumping like right near a glass table. It's not just that they're jumping on the couch. We're like, my kid is going to crack their head. I'm going to have to take them to the emergency room. Not safe. And so we say, get off the couch. And then we may validate their feelings. It's so fun to jump. You love to jump on the couch, but my kid is still jumping on the couch. So that's validating feelings. Cool, good job, but that is not a complete job as a parent. The other side of things is boundaries. Now, I think we've been given the wrong definition of boundaries because we say to our kids, I'm going to count to three. I'm going to count to three. And if you're not off the couch, and then we literally, I don't know if I could say this, we just make shit up. That's what we do. We go, if you're not off by the time I count to three, you're getting 29 minutes on your iPad instead of 32 minutes. And we're like, what? Like, why did I even say that?
I mean, if the word if comes out of my mouth, I know I'm doing it wrong.
Yeah. And we're like, you don't get dessert tonight. And then dessert time comes and we're like, did I say tonight?
Yeah.
Well, strawberries with whipped cream isn't really dessert and like completely undermine our own authority. I know these things because I say them myself. That's not a boundary. But there's like this kind of firmness or this warmth. And we've been given two extremes. And there's always in the world, there's always a better answer than two extremes. And so we consider a parent having both jobs. And here's how I want parents to think about boundaries. And this is life-changing, also at work. Boundaries are things you tell someone else you will do, and they require the other person to do nothing. Mm-hmm. That is my favorite definition because it allows me to assess, am I actually setting a boundary or am I telling myself I'm setting a boundary? But based on that definition, I am not. So when we tell our kids, stop jumping on the couch, am I telling my kid what I will do? No. Does it require my kid to do nothing? No, that's not a boundary. It's a request. And we can make a request, but if our kid doesn't follow a request and we need something to happen, we can't just keep thinking, I'm going to keep doing the same thing over and over. And then we say to ourselves, my kid doesn't respect my boundaries. We're not setting boundaries. Boundaries would be saying this, I'm going to walk over to you, sweetie. And if by the time I'm there, you're not off the couch, I will put my hands around your waist. I will take you off the couch and I'll show you a safer way to jump. That's a boundary. My kid's not involved. I'm not putting the success of my intervention in my 6-year-old's hands. Like, I feel like I have way too much respect for myself and my own authority. Asking my kid to do my job for me is a pilot saying to a passenger, do you guys think it's okay to make an emergency landing? Can I get a vote? Can I get a vote? No. Okay. We're not going to do it. Like, can you imagine? So that's a boundary. Now, to be clear, when I set this beautiful boundary and I take my kid off the couch, this is so important. Our kids do not reward our good parental decisions with good behavior. They don't say thank you for your sturdy leadership. I love you. I was hoping you would do that. No, they scream and cry because nobody likes someone stopping them from doing something they want to do. That's just no one likes it. So they scream and cry, but this is the beauty. If you were wondering, how am I going to do that second part of my job? Now's your opportunity. You set a boundary. That's part one. Your kid's always going to be upset. And now you can kick in the other part, validating their feelings. Oh, you really wanted to jump on the couch. You don't want to jump on the floor. It's no fun. I get that. And if this is new for someone, they say, and then they get back on the couch. Nope. There's a wash, rinse, repeat to family jobs at Good Inside. I set a boundary. My kid's upset. I validate my kid being upset. I continue holding the boundary. My kid's still upset. I validate their feelings. I still hold the boundary over and over and over until it ends. And it does. And it does. And in every situation, like no matter what's going on with your kid right now, I want you to ask yourself, am I setting a true boundary? Which is part of embodying our authority, like any leader needs to do. The pilot's the pilot for a reason. They don't let passengers make decisions. But then when passengers have feelings, a good pilot might say, I know you're bummed we can't land in Los Angeles. You were really hoping to go to that wedding and we have an emergency landing in Kansas. That stinks. That does. So just like a good pilot, we set boundaries, we allow people to have feelings, we validate those feelings while we hold our boundaries. Wash, rinse, repeat almost every time. That is something you can come back to. And I promise whatever's happening in your home will start to shift in a more positive direction.
I mean, I've learned this from you, and my husband and I have put this in practice. These two things that are powerful individually, but incomplete, but when they come together, create this synergy. And we practice it constantly. We're not perfect at it, but we're aware. And
Yes.
I have seen the difference in our parental health, our partnership health, and our relationship with our kids, because we can move through these totally natural moments of developmental seasons without creating these damaging micro moments within. It's just being a great guide. And as you were talking about the two things, just remember these two things. With AG1, it's nutrients and gut health. Nutrients and gut health. The modern world puts stressors on our body that did not used to exist. And nutrients are getting harder and harder to access, either because our food's traveling farther and the nutrient density goes down over time, the nutrient profile, or it's just harder to access healthy food in a busy life, or we have medications or stressors or things that we need to navigate that affect our gut health. And so it's the two. If you don't have great gut health, you can't absorb even the best multivitamin in the world. If you have great gut health, but you aren't eating healthy and getting nutrients, you're missing the support you need. It's the two. It's why the two are together in one product. And it's why people feel so great. And so this idea of keeping it simple, these two things, boundaries and validation. For nutrition, it's nutrients and gut health together. They're simple. They're not everything, but they're enough to remember, to practice.
That's exactly right. And, to be clear, when you do your job, when you do these parents' jobs, too often we have defined success as a parent by our kids' behavior, which is just a bad setup in life. I don't want to define my own success in any part of my life from anyone else's reaction or behavior. I might know I did a great job on a project and my boss might not say anything. If I spiral after, I've lost my ability to know, wait, like, let me just wait a few days. I know I did a good job, right? We want to be able to gaze it and say, I did a good job. Same thing at a company. You might know you had a great day. Your company had a bad month. You still did a good job. That's still real. And so what's so important as a parent is to say, what if I started to define my success by my ability to do my job in a hard situation instead of by my kid's reaction to my doing a good job? Because let's say you say bye to your kid. They cry. You say, oh, I know it's so hard when mommy leaves. Mommy will be back. And I still walk out the door. Boundary, feeling, validation, boundary. Now you walk out. So many parents are like, oh, I'm such a bad parent. I feel so guilty, right? Wait. Another perspective is, holy moly, wait. I did my job really well. I set a boundary. I let my kid be upset. I validated their upset and I continue to hold my boundary. Now, am I going to throw myself a party? Do I feel amazing? I'm still tired. I still feel like a little emotionally taxed. But if I can tell myself, Becky, I did my job really well. Honestly, my kid did their job well too. We're not going to get into it, but in my mind, a kid's job is to feel their feelings. That's the only way they're going to develop coping skills for those feelings. You can't develop coping skills for feelings you don't have. So this is actually a setup for them to be able to deal with sadness or, disappointment later in life. So everyone actually won. It's not enjoyable. It's definitely not convenient. But if you can say to yourself, I did my job and I did my job well, you don't spiral. And sometimes the best it gets as a parent is just not spiraling, because then you can move on with your day.
I cannot thank you enough. One, for your friendship and for the model you put out into the world. You've made me a better parent. I know you have done that for millions of people. I'm so excited about the Good Inside app to get a little insight regularly, daily into your expertise and your journey. So as we wrap up, would love for you to share any final thoughts.
Yeah, well, this has been such a pleasure. I could talk to you for hours. I think the last message I have, and I think this applies to, people who are interested in Good Inside and our app and getting that kind of foundation of, sturdy leadership and family health, and for AG1, I often think like what holds people back from starting these routines? And I think we have a lot of narratives in the world that tells us what. And they're awful blaming, shaming narratives. Someone's lazy, someone doesn't care, someone doesn't have discipline. And I just want to say those out loud because they're all wrong. And we often do hold those beliefs about ourselves and it stops us, it freezes us. When we feel shame, it's an animal defense freeze state. And if you're trying to do anything new, think about how hard it would be to do something new if you're in a freeze state. Freeze states literally keep you where you are. And so I just want to provide a different idea for people that I think one of the biggest things that holds people back from saying, I'm going to start AG1, I'm going to do it, I've thought about it, or you know what, it's true. I did always take things seriously in college and I took that extra training at my job and I am a parent now and I haven't really done anything. That's not consistent. I think it's just a need to forgive ourselves. I really do. I think it's kind of that profound and that simple. Like to say, I forgive myself for what I've done the last 10 years in my health. I forgive myself for the way I've handled my kids' rudeness problems and for what got us here to this hard place we're in. And to actually really do that. I mean, for what it's worth, and it might be worth something, it might be worth nothing. Like, I forgive you. I forgive you. And forgiveness and kind of self-compassion. Maybe I didn't have what I needed. Maybe I didn't have something that fit into my life. Maybe it's not a me problem. Maybe it's not about blaming anyone. Maybe I can just say, I forgive myself. I didn't have the roadmap that's now available in health. I didn't have the roadmap that's now available in a digestible, easy way with parenting. Now I do. I can forgive myself for what I've done and I can start anew. And I always tell people the right time to change is always right now.
Now,
And I
just
think
start.
that's just always true.
Your message on forgiveness and just start reminds me of two things. One, something my mom has written on my birthday card for years. It's a pinned post on X. It's a quote and a mantra that I live by and how I've run companies and teams, which is don't forget where you came from, but don't you dare ever let it solely define you. Our truth is in our roots. There's something about our truth that is in our past that should be viewed as power, as a why, as a reason, as fuel, but our past should not be our anchor. And that's what you just said reminded me. Just because I didn't do something yesterday doesn't mean I can't start today. This idea of just start. You have permission to change. We must love ourselves. And I have a similar call to people who are watching, just as Dr. Becky just said, I forgive you. You forgive yourself. My partner mention to that is love yourself. Like love yourself, love your family, love the journey you're on. It's the journey. None of us are perfect. We've all made mistakes, but the people who grow are those who can recognize that and not view it as an anchor, but yet recognize better is possible. And then just take one step, whether it's Good Inside and parenting, whether it's AG1 and nutrition, or an extra walk if you feel like you're needing extra steps, or time alone if you're feeling frazzled. Just because it's been hard to do in the past for many, many reasons doesn't mean you can't start today.
Love it. Thank you, Kat. Talk forever soon.
Yes. With more of these to come. Many more to come. Thank you, Dr. Becky. You're the best. Thank you. Thank you.